Irreverent, entertaining, cool. You're listening to LA Talk Radio.
You're listening to What Women Want with Judy Goss and Kristin West, only on LA Talk Radio.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Judy Goss, and welcome to What Women Want Talk Radio. Thank you for joining us for our show tonight, Authentically Awesome Game Changers. One of our guests was told at one point she had 24 hours and a 1% chance to live. Actually, she wasn't told. Her mother was told because she was in a coma. What a story. And the other ones, and one can answer things like, the other guest can answer things like what the Ebola virus is and your car have in common. What the Ebola virus and your car have in common. These ladies are changing the world with their answers. I'm a little flustered tonight because I just think they're so incredible and I cannot wait to hear what they have to say. And they are changing the world in a really candid, uplifting, and very honest way. I'm here with my honestly awesome co-host, Kristin West.
Hi, Judy. I'm so excited to have these guests on tonight.
I know. I just can hardly believe really what they have to talk about. And Kristin, I just want to let everybody know that you're in the studio at LA Talk Radio, and I'm broadcasting from New York, so we're covering both coasts. And What Women Want Talk Radio has actually reached well over 1 million downloads at this point since we first hit the airwaves. And between latalkradio.com's archives, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, and all over social media, you can find us everywhere. So listen to those replays, and we're taking sponsors for our show for the next few months. So email us for a complete deck through our website, whatwomenwantradio.com. Speaking of sponsors, Design and Print Resource is once again sponsoring What Women Want. As always, she is so supportive of women. And the truth is that everyone buys printing in some form. So the company you can trust for great service is Design and Print Resource. Gloria Strayer, who has a great story, by the way, herself, growing up in South Central LA. She's the founder and owner of Design and Print Resource in Anaheim, California. And she's been in the print industry for 40 years, but her energy is like a 20-year-old. I love her. Her services also include warehousing and distribution, so give them a call at 714-687-9200 or go to dnpresource.com. That's DNP, that's in Paul, resource.com. I'm excited to say that I am the new host of Behind the Gates, showing on the AWE channel. We started filming the most spectacular residences in the city and to show you what's behind the gates of those dreamy places that you walk or drive by and you can't quite see what's over those gates. We walk through and show you, and I'm having so much fun with it. We're going to be traveling a little bit around the country, so more to come on that. And my background actually originally comes from high fashion modeling with Ford New York, and after that I was a magazine editor on the other side of the camera, and that led me to TV hosting and reporting regularly for Better TV, City Buzz, all the TV networks around the country, both regional and national. And I'm now a regular contributor on NBC and Fox. And I'm an entrepreneur. I founded the company What Women Want Networking 7 years ago. We're hosting our second National Women's Conference in October 19th through the 21st at the Hyatt Regency in Atlanta, Georgia. And everyone out there listening, you really should join us. We had women from 13 states and Canada attend last year, our very first conference, and it was a blast. Kristin will tell you she was there. We had the best time. So if you're looking for some inspiration and business as well as personal development, you got to be there. I'm also a St. Martin's Press author and the mom of teenage twin girls, which keeps me very, very busy these days. Kristin, please take over. I'm talking too much about me, and tell us about what's going on with you.
It's interesting. I've had a big week. The Lich.
Good.
Yeah, The Lich finally came out on streaming. So now you can watch The Lich. It's a feature horror comedy, and I have a supporting role in that. It's directed by James Balsamo. You go to acidbathproductions.com. It's kind of a campy, fun teen horror comedy movie if you're into that. And then my new talk show. The other talk show I do, Horror Talk with Kristin West, just got nominated for Best Web Series at the Golden Earth Film Awards, which is exciting. So we're going to see the outcome of that. And we were just having fun over here.
I know. Isn't it so great? We get to do what we love. It's just an amazing feeling. For so many years, I did not do what I love. So, and now it's all coming to fruition. So it's just a blast. And you're doing so well, too. Congratulations. You're going to sweep up all the awards with that talk show. Such a great premise. I don't think there's another show out there like that, is there?
It's a little bit different in that it's really entertainment reporting that's focused very specifically on the horror community, because sometimes in the entertainment press, horror films do not get adequate coverage.
Right, and it's like the fastest growing genre of movies, right?
Right. And there are many great horror hosts who do characters. There's a long tradition of that, and I love them all. I love Count Gregula. I love Svengoolie. I love Miss Misery. I love them all. But I really wanted to do an interview talk show entertainment report for horror, and it's been very well received, and I'm so very excited about that.
Well, it's been well received because you're doing such a great job. So congratulations to that. Now, my genre is press, media, friending the press. What does it take exactly to book your own press? Find out with our free 30-minute, and this is a short webinar, we promise. It's actually a live Zoom call this Tuesday through What Women Want Networking with Sabina Hitchin, who's the founder of Press for Success. So to register, visit whatwomenwantnetworking.com. This is part 3 in a series of cutting-edge networking. We showed you how to build relationships in person, how to do it on social media, and now we're going to show you how to create relationships with the press. Kristin, speaking of my networking company, what do you feel? Why do you feel like networking is so vital to our careers? Not just business people, but everyone.
Because you never know who you're going to meet and why. And
that's right. If you don't get out there, you'll never meet anyone.
Right. In especially in entertainment, you need to meet more people a year than most people would meet in their average life. You never know what's out there. Most of my film festival success and my recent acting roles has been through networking and meeting people and saying hello and learning about people. And that's why the opportunities that you provide for people to network are so valuable.
Thank you, and I can attest to that too. Some of the biggest successes I've had is because I put myself out there. And Alexa Carlin is doing that also. She's the founder and CEO of the Women Empower Expo. I love that name. A nationally renowned public speaker and creator of beapublicspeaker.com. She launched the Women Empower Expo, which she calls WEX, W-E-X, in 2016, and it grew to become the largest event for female entrepreneurs and change leaders in South Florida and Washington, D.C. within its first year. Alexa's been featured on Cheddar TV, the Oprah Winfrey Network, CBS, Fox DC. She's got a great publicist, and was named one of the most powerful women in Fort Lauderdale by Gold Coast Fort Lauderdale Daily. Her mission is to make a difference in at least one person's life every single day. Welcome to the show, Alexa.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you're welcome, and it's our pleasure to have you on the show. You have quite a story. You survived through an illness that literally took you to the brink of death. A lot of people have had near-death experiences. I had one. I had a blood clot in my lung when I was younger, but I was nowhere near given a 1% chance to live. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes. Well, it changed my entire life. Senior year, I was a couple of months away from graduating college, and just out of nowhere, I started getting really sick and was rushed to the emergency room. My mom happened to be in town.
Really sick? How? What were your symptoms?
Flu-like symptoms, the shivers, high fever, but the flu was going around. So all of my friends were like, oh, it's just the flu. It's just the flu. I even went to a walk-in clinic that morning. They gave me an IV of fluids and some antibiotics and then sent me on my way. And a few months later, I'm getting induced into a medical coma where my body went into septic shock. So basically what happened, unknowingly, a bacteria got into my bloodstream and started killing all of my organs very rapidly. And sepsis, 1 in 3 people die from sepsis. And when you get to, it's a very serious illness where you have to catch it at a certain time. And if my mom didn't take me to the emergency when she did, it would have been way too late. I was already going into shock, and that's why they had to induce me into a medical coma in order to try to save my life. So I was in a coma, and they told my mom I had a 1% chance and to call my family, that I had 24 hours. And I was in a coma for 6 days in the ICU for a total of 10. And during this time, it really just, it changed my life. I speak about my story authentically all over the country, and I share different things that I experienced while in the coma, while in the ICU. And even when I was discharged from the hospital and thought I was onto a full recovery, 6 months later, I'm getting diagnosed with an autoimmune disease because of all the antibiotics that were being pumped into my system really destroyed my whole digestive tract.
Oh,
and
good Lord. I bet our doctor who's coming on the line next is going to have a lot to say about that, but keep going.
Yeah, probably.
Wow, this is an incredible story.
I would say that's been the hardest thing to overcome or not even to overcome, to live with. And I talk about that, and I'll get to that in one moment, but going, I speaking on something that you went through in the past, like my near-death experience, it's done. It's not like I have sepsis, right? I went through septic shock, I went through the coma, and I overcame that. But now with my autoimmune disease, it's a chronic illness, and I live with it every single day. And there's some days where I don't feel that well, and I have to cancel all of my plans. Or there's days when I have to go to an early morning TV interview, and the thing that's taking up my entire mind is thinking, am I going to be healthy enough to make it there? And this has definitely been the hardest thing to deal with. And that's why I speak so vulnerably and authentically about it, is because I think a lot of people are trying to overcome their obstacles and challenges, or they wait until things change in order to do the things that they want in life. And I was waiting for a very long time.
I'm sure that's why you became such a huge success so quickly with this Women in Power Expo, because you are authentic and you told your story, and people really resonate with that and they learn from it, which is one of the points of our show. Is that we can learn from people like you who have been through traumatic situations like that and come out and really make something of themselves and tell their story.
Oh, definitely. All of our speakers at WEX are all people that are courageous enough to share their story and share their journey, the ups and the downs. Because if I went on this radio show or went on a stage and said, this is everything I've accomplished, and here's 3 ways you could do it too, then nobody would really be able to take that advice to heart, because they'll be sitting in the audience thinking, well, this is all this stuff going on in my life. How do you know what's going to work? But by me sharing my story so vulnerably and authentically, and sharing even through all this, I'm still going out there and chasing my dreams and creating this life that I love for myself. Here's what helps me. Maybe it can help you too. That's when people create those real connections and relationships.
I think, though, there's something about you that's a fighter and a go-getter, because while you were recuperating at home, you actually wrote a cookbook. How did you manage to do that? How did you manage to do that while recuperating from such a serious illness, Alexa?
That's a good question. Thanks for asking that. So there was a point in my life where I was just going from doctor to doctor to doctor, Eastern medicine, Western medicine, holistic, integrative, everything you could imagine. I even studied to become a health coach so I could learn all the different dietary needs myself. But so through this experience, I was really too sick to go out and eat at a restaurant or go out and do what other 22-year-olds were doing. And it gets very lonely and isolating, and you can easily sink into a depressive state. And so instead, I thought to myself, well, how can I use my time productively while I'm home in a way that brings me joy and happiness? And I started my first business when I was 17. So I've always been passionate and determined individual. So being stuck at home, not able to go out and do what I love, really does affect you in a number of ways. And then on the other end of that, I wasn't able to eat a lot of foods because I couldn't digest them. And I'm not the best chef, nor do I love cooking. And it was really hard to find food. So I was like, well, what if I take my favorite recipes and create them in a vegan, gluten-free recipe using different, just replace the ingredients and make it simple so it doesn't cost so much money. Because again, I was right out of college. I didn't have so much money to spend on tons of expensive ingredients. And so that it was just a passion project to take my mind off of it, but it turned into my first published book that I actually launched on Kickstarter.
Now,
oh my gosh, she's not. It's like incredible. Go ahead, Kristin.
Well, one thing that
it's unbelievable. We have so many questions. Go.
One thing that you and Judy have in common is that you've both become noted for events. Judy has the What Women Want conference. You have Wexpo. But before your foray into live events, you were doing a blog. And how did that blog impact your career going forward?
So the blog Hello Perfect was something that I started while in college because when growing up, I always had low confidence. And I think we all grow up with some self-doubt and low confidence. And I saw how much you can achieve when you're confident in yourself because of certain little things that I achieved throughout my journey through high school and certain steps in college. And so I wanted to create a blog that would instill confidence in young girls and women to also help me gain more confidence. And so I created Hello Perfect. And one of our main campaigns to get the message out was the Perfect Is movement. And it was a mission to redefine perfection to help instill that confidence. So perfect helps you become the best of you and doesn't cause you self-doubt. And I started to ask tons of different celebrities, because I would run into them while living in New York City for an internship, their definition of perfect. And I would run up to Shaquille O'Neal, Mark Cuban, Mark Jacobs, Steve Madden, like all these celebrities. And I was so nervous.
Hold on.
But
what were you doing as an intern to meet all these people?
Oh, so good thing you asked, actually. I was interning for Sabina, who you happen to be doing a webinar for.
You were not.
Yes, 100%. She is still like one of my mentors.
Are you
I
kidding
know.
me?
I love Sabina. Yeah, she's amazing.
I've known her.
That was my
been
first internship.
Friends with her for over 10 years. That is wild.
Really? I started the blog while interning with her.
Oh my gosh, that is
blog,
so freaky.
Yeah, that blog really spiraled and had a big impact in me because I saw what you can accomplish and the impact you can make when you put yourself out there. And through Hello Perfect is actually when I started to do small events.
So for the listeners who don't know what's going on, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Alexa and I have never actually spoken. Okay, really? I mean, I got to know you, through someone who proposed you through our show. Thank you, Grits PR, and we didn't know we had this kind of connection. So that's crazy.
That is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. You must have freaked out when you heard her name.
I did, yes. Every time I go to New York, she's like the first person I text. Do you have time? Can we meet for coffee? I'm a big fan of Sabina. So if anybody doesn't know her, definitely attend the webinar because she's taught me so much as well, especially with putting yourself out there in PR and getting being your number one brand promoter.
Wow. Okay, I need to come back to reality here. I'm like freaking out. Okay.
But going back to how Hello Perfect inspired Wex was, I was putting on these small events and I would invite, 3 friends that were growing a blog because I didn't have any followers. So I needed to invite other people to speak and I would get a free co-working space. My first one was in New York City and my first event had 5 people. And I was so excited because I got to inspire 5 people. And that's really how I started to practice my craft as a public speaker. One event led to 20 people, 30 people. And then I got sick again because with an autoimmune disease, it comes and goes. And through the journey of putting myself out there on social media, through live streams, I got on Periscope right when it launched. That's when I really got inspired to start Wex, to create a community of women who felt empowered to connect and collaborate to really turn their ideas into reality. And our first Woman in Power Expo in Fort Lauderdale had 2,000 people in attendance.
Well, congratulations. That's quite, that's an amazing feat. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, Alexa, your motto is go for it. So what things do you do on a daily basis to help you go for it?
Every single day, I challenge myself to overcome a certain fear mindset, a mindset of fear. Like what? So to go for it, there's so many different ways to interpret it, but it's really about not letting anything stop you from going after what you want in life. And it's that whole idea, whether you want health, a love relationship, wealth, a book, a press feature, whatever it is, it's about putting yourself out there and just going for it. And so, for example, I could sit back all day and wait until sponsors come our way. But instead, I was like, no, if I want sponsors to be part of Women in Power Expo, then I need to go for it. And so one day I just emailed probably 100 people on LinkedIn that I thought their business would align perfectly with our audience. And I ended up getting a few sponsors that way. So that's kind of, when I say go for it, it's stepping out of just waiting for things to come your way or just managing a business or managing your life. It's very easy to be on the response side, right? We wake up and we respond to all our emails. Well, what if you woke up and the first 20 minutes of your day, you didn't respond to anything, but instead you sent out 20 emails? And that's moving your business forward and moving the needle forward. And that's kind of my motto with Go For It.
So, Alexa, I want to talk about your event. It's coming up in a couple of weeks down in Washington, D.C. And I want to tell people how they can, attend. But I do have one more question for you that I'm very curious about. After you came out of this coma and you were coming back to reality and realizing the scope of what you had been through and what you needed to do to get well. To listeners out there that are going through a traumatic situation, sometimes you get so low and you don't know how you're going to start even climbing out of that black hole. What is one of the first things you thought or you did to move yourself forward?
That's a good question. There was a moment in my life when I changed what I was asking myself. I spent a long time asking myself, why did this happen to me? I was 21 years old. I had all my dreams right in front of me, and I just felt like everything was taken from me, and it was out of my control. And I spent years asking myself, why did this happen to me? And it was a moment that I said, instead of why did this happen to me, why did this happen for me? And that's when I started to try to use this in a purposeful way. And I may never know why, and you don't need to know why. But if you can understand that things happen for a reason to help you become the best you possible and help you become the person you're supposed to be, every single day you can do things that are meaningful to you. And I always say, my disease is part of me. My past is part of me, but it does not define me or define what I can and cannot do. And it was, instead of waiting and searching for the light at the end of the tunnel, realizing that the light was within me all along.
Oh, that is so well said. So brilliantly put. I feel like that's the whole premise of our show and what we talk about all this time. But you're so eloquent in the way that you say it. And so you truly are empowering. And I'm going to encourage everybody that's listening to go to the Women in Power Expo in D.C. It's May 25th or 6th?
Saturday, May 26th.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Where can we get tickets and what can we expect? We got to wrap up in about a minute or so, but I just want to let everybody know, just to sum it all up.
Yes. So you could find out more information at womenempowerexpo.com. It's a one-day event. There's going to be 2,000 people in attendance, over 50 speakers, breakout sessions, panels, keynote speakers. We have Cleo Wade speaking. We have the president of Zoho, and then we have sessions, everything from how to charge what you're worth to personal branding to a panel discussion on the Time's Up movement. So it's for any woman who is passionate, determined to turn ideas into reality, entrepreneurs, creatives, intrapreneurs. It's really going to be an incredible event because of the community that comes out there. You'll find a connection that may just transform your life. I always say you're one connection away from changing your personal or professional life, and you could find that at WEX.
And it's funny because you say it's because of the community, but really, Alexa, it's because of you. So kudos to you, and keep doing what you're doing because you are really changing the world. Thousands of women at a time, and not just one woman at a time anymore.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Kristin, let's bring on Dr. Nina Shapiro.
Yes, Dr. Nina Shapiro is the author of the new book, Hype, A Doctor's Guide to Medical Myths, Exaggerated Claims, and Bad Advice, How to Tell What's Real and What's Not. She is professor of head and neck surgery at the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA and has been working in clinical and academic medicine for more than 2 decades. She's here to help listeners figure out what is a legitimate health concern versus health hype that's being perpetuated by fake news and the rumor mill. Welcome to the show, Dr. Shapiro.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
We're so excited to have you, and especially someone who is so noted in their field. You are an ears, nose, and throat surgeon, and the technical term,
yes,
otolaryngologist. I have to get it out to prove to myself I could do it.
You got it.
Yay! I want to ask you. You've dedicated 2 decades of your life to helping people, making people healthier. You've dealt with so many tough cases in your life. Actually, people come to you when they don't know what to do from other countries. People are seeking your advice in the media as well. How do you approach those tough cases?
That's a great question. I think, we have a lot of patients, certainly in my neck of the woods where people come, so to speak, and, they come, ear, nose, and throat joke. They come to us, really at their wits' end, whether it's for themselves or for a family member or for a child, whether they're coming locally or coming from out of town or out of state or out of the country. And, it's really, people are, want an answer, and rightly so. And it's tough because, sometimes we have to sort of take a few steps backwards, and it's very frustrating for people when we have to repeat tests or repeat things that were done by other doctors, but it's really important to have the right current information. But I think people are really appreciative, and we sort of try to approach it as we're in it together. It's not them and us. I don't like to have this wall between me and patients and families. And we, as in the doctors and the patients, are there to cure this whatever illness or ailment it is. And it's sort of needs to be a team effort. And so it's a lot of fun. It's really satisfying.
I love how amusing you are in your book. I got to give you credit about talking about such serious subjects like the Ebola virus, Zika, and, you cover everything from cover to cover, no pun intended there either. But and it's just in such a conversational way, and that's really impressive that you can still kind of keep that lightness, because I was shaking a bit when I started reading your book thinking, oh no. Oh no, when I'm going to read, I don't like to hear about this kind, and I'm not necessarily one of those people who feel like they're sick all the time, like my husband. Hopefully he's not listening, but I just thought it was entertaining. And I admire that about your style of writing.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's a lot of, and I really feel that it has to be conversational. These are bad, scary things that we're talking about. And, if you don't lighten it up, first of all, nobody's going to want to read it if it's just a dry, medical book with information. So you have to lighten it up, and you have to make it, people have to be engaged in the subject matter. And, certainly it's some serious stuff, but I think a lot of what I try to do in the book is to put things into perspective. And I think, you have to kind of lighten it up when you do that. For instance, you mentioned, what do Ebola and your car have in common? Or what's more dangerous, Ebola or an eclair? So, you kind of put these extreme, ridiculous things together, and, and it makes for a fun read, I hope.
Okay, you got to explain yourself because the listeners haven't read your book. So tell them what it has in common and the eclair story.
Right. So, one of the questions in one of the chapters of the book is what starts out, what does Ebola, which is this horrible, deadly virus, and your car have in common? And the answer is, this is a small spoiler for the book, the answer is that they can both kill you, but your car is much more likely to do so. And during the huge worldwide, primarily in this country, panic when the Ebola virus was all over the news, more people died in car accidents on a daily basis than people died of Ebola. One person died of Ebola in this country. That's obviously one too many. But, 20,000 people die in car accidents. So, a lot of it just has to do with, wait a second, when you hear these amazing, terrifying, dramatic things in the news, step back and, go back to the basics. What do Ebola and an eclair have in common? Well, they're both pretty bad for you, but eclairs can probably do more long-term damage just by, hardening, causing junk in your arteries and causing heart disease, obesity, all that kind of stuff. So worry more about that than worry about getting this wild virus that's so exceedingly rare.
Is that what motivated you to write Hype? Were you finally like, that's it, I've got to say something?
Yeah, I think what motivated me to write Hype was just seeing so many really, really smart, educated, health-conscious people missing the boat on how to stay healthy. And, they may do something that they think is really healthy, but can actually do some harm. A perfect example is, we know that nuts are really healthy. They have protein, they have omega-3 and all that good stuff, and they're good to give to kids. But if you give it to a young kid, they can choke and potentially die. So here it is, this healthy thing that you're giving to your child because you think it's good for them. You don't want to give them meat, or you want to just, give them healthy stuff, but it's potentially a really dangerous thing. And so how are people supposed to know what's dangerous and what's not, and what's nonsense? And so it was a little bit of an aha moment. I see people really, don't know what to do to keep healthy and keep safe and live healthier and longer. And, don't focus on, these little minuscule things that seem so important because they're headlines, but focus on, the basics on how to stay healthy.
Oh, Kristin, hold on. I found something in the book here. I just saw this. And this is another spoiler, but I have to read a little bit of this one. Okay, so it's called Wine O. We often hear that wine, especially red, contains healthy, quote unquote, ingredients so long as it's consumed in moderate amounts. What does this mean? The real benefits to drinking wine have less to do with its chemical makeup and more to do with its relaxing properties, making it a stress reducer. Wow, that's a great point. This book is full of them.
Thank you. Yes, we talk about, are there, the big buzz was about red wine and this chemical in it called a natural ingredient in it called resveratrol, which is an antioxidant. And when you hear that buzzword antioxidant, you often think, oh, that must be healthy. That's why I need to start drinking red wine. But all the studies haven't really shown that that's really why red wine is good for you. It's part of a very big picture. And also this component, resveratrol, is in berries and grapes and all other, fruits. So you don't necessarily, another point is, and people have been asking me this already, oh, I guess I should start drinking wine. Clearly it's good for me. I'm not saying you should start drinking, but it's certainly fine to drink in moderation.
Well, you're not saying we should stop.
Right.
I'm not saying you should stop. Go for it. Cheers.
It might be better.
A lot of people saying, oh, well, I don't drink wine. Maybe I should start. No.
It might be better for your marriage and your mental health in some cases.
It's good. Yeah. It's good for everything.
Dr. Shapiro, you have 80 peer-reviewed publications, and you've had over 200 professional presentations in your career. In these 2 decades, as well as numerous blogs and videos to your credit. How do you stay so prolific?
I think 2 decades is a long time. So it's been over time. And, I think it's just, we always have to, regardless of what field we're in, whether it's medicine or anything else, you always have to keep asking questions and don't take things for granted just because, why do we do this? Because we do. That's not an answer. We need to know why. And so as medicine evolves and my practice evolves and the world changes, there are always new questions coming up. So it's really exciting. I work in a place that, it's an academic center. We have a lot of new technologies and research going on. So it's a really exciting place to ask questions and work with people to help find the answers. I really enjoy writing for non-medical people because I think it's so important to be able to communicate in a way that's not talking down to somebody, oh, you don't know anything about medicine, so I need to talk this way, but really just to include people in the conversation and also let people know that we as doctors don't know everything, and whatever we say now may change 10 or 20 years from now, and that's okay.
I really appreciate that because sometimes people can be very intimidated just to go to the doctor for something that they should be checking up on. And then if you're not connecting with your doctor, or you feel that your doctor's being condescending towards you or doesn't have a good bedside manner, whatever it is, it can really affect your experience of your own health journey. And so
absolutely. I mean, communication is number 1, 2, and 3 as far as a relationship with your doctor. And if you feel like you're, as you said, if you're intimidated, if you can't ask them questions, if you're embarrassed, if you don't want to tell them something because you think they're going to be angry with you, then it's the wrong relationship. It's if you have the ability, you need to find somebody else.
I'm interested to know, when did you know you wanted to be a doctor?
I knew pretty early. I don't have one of these exciting stories that, first I was, this and that, and then I finally found medicine. I come from a family of doctors. We had a lot in our, in our home, dinner table talk about patients when I was 7. So it was always sort of an interest of mine. Actually, the other interest I remember growing up was either to be a doctor or a journalist. So I think my writing bug is, I'm getting it out a little bit now, several decades later, because I do love to write and not necessarily just medical writing. But, I think I always had an interest in taking care of patients and hearing people's stories. I think that's a lot of what medicine is, when we see a patient for the first time, it's, one of the questions we ask is, what's your story? What brings you here? Tell me about yourself, and what not just the problem, but the whole big picture about a person. So it's just like journalism. You kind of ask people a lot of questions, and you find out about them, and it's pretty cool. And especially in medicine, people tell you things that are kind of interesting, not necessarily repeatable.
Well, speaking of interesting, I have a question for you. When writing the book, did you find out anything that completely shocked you?
That's a great question. There was a lot, I learned a lot writing this book because I have a very small, narrow subspecialty as far as what I do on a daily basis at work. So I learned so much when I was writing this book. Some of the kind of fun, crazy facts that I found out had to do with, simple things like, I still take vitamins because I think they're good, and I think that, they keep me healthy, and, vitamin C prevents colds, and I found out, and I read several very large studies that is absolutely complete nonsense, that there is no evidence that does anything. That was kind of interesting. Something else that I thought was really interesting is, we talk about risks, and, I talked about Ebola and the risk of, dying from Ebola or dying in a car accident is, when we think about putting risks into perspective, and when I really kind of dug a little deeper into, what are the highest risks of just living in this world, and, it was, kind of not what I thought. It was a little bit different. I'd save that for the reader.
It's amazing. I think one of the things that we lack sometimes is that perspective and managing the risks of our lives. Sometimes we don't, we take our lives in our hands when we get in a car. We take our lives in our hands when when maybe we're eating something that's not necessarily the best food for us. I'm glad that you brought up risk because it's an important part of life. I wanted to ask.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Dr. Shapiro, because we are a show that focuses on women's issues, women's concerns, and the lives of women. And 70% of the physicians today in the U.S. are males. And in your specialty in otolaryngology, 87% of them are males. Did that impact you in any way when you were going through med school and practicing?
No, absolutely. I mean, when I was in medical school 1,000 years ago, it was actually, as far as the students it was probably about 40% women. But when I was applying in my specialty, it was about 10% women. And it has changed over the last few decades, and the newer groups of young doctors coming into surgical fields, it's closer to 30% women. But the people that are actually in the field, it's a boys' club. And I trained on the East Coast, which is very traditional, and it was a real you don't even realize how inappropriate the stuff was and what people would comment, and you just took it for granted because you were, quote unquote, the girl in the group of lots and lots of men. And, now looking back, I can't believe what went on, and I can't believe, what was just sort of assumed to be okay. People would say, when if a few women would walk into an operating room, they would yell code pink.
Oh my God.
As opposed to a code blue. Right.
Oh my
Cute,
Lord.
But extremely offensive. Nowadays, if you would do something like that, that would be the end of your career as a male saying something like that, or it should be. So it was definitely a very sexist group, and but on the other hand, there were men who treated us like they were my brothers and I was their sister, and it was great, and complete respect and no sense of gender differences. You just were doing your job as best as you can, but certainly the overall tone was girl doctor.
I appreciate your candor about that, because I think it's something that women in different fields encounter to varying degrees. And when I saw that statistic, my jaw dropped. That even today, it still goes on. I mean, I was on a flight a few weeks ago, and the announcement came on that is there a doctor on the plane? We need medical assistance. So I stand up and I go and find this woman, and thankfully everything was fine. She had just passed out, and the first question they said to me was, "Oh, are you a nurse?" Oh my goodness!
And wow, really?
Absolutely. This was 2 weeks ago. And that's absolutely fine. Nurses are amazing, and they're fantastic, and they're men and they're women who are nurses. And it's not, to put any, sort of quality or, objective sense, but it was, no, I'm not. It was, and this is 2018. So it's still that sense of a woman doctor is sort of, that you're not just a doctor, you're a woman doctor. It's like something.
That's shocking because, in Kristin, in your industry especially, I feel like it pretty much exploded, and in my industry as well, as such a public scene, and everyone was talking about it, and there was so much media and press around it. But it's shocking when you hear an industry as like yours that you don't really see that other side of it, and it's just all over, and it's shocking, right? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, we took it for granted 20, 30 years ago. Now, we look twice when that happens.
Yeah, totally. Look twice and sue them.
Dr. Shapiro, for women out there, especially women at college age who are considering becoming a physician or want to be a physician, what advice would you give to them?
my advice is to go for it. I think that, and I do give, lectures to, as young as, middle school students up, through residents as far as, women in medicine, women in surgery. And I always say, do not pick fields based on lifestyle, because you can make a lifestyle out of any field. If you want to be a brain surgeon or a heart surgeon and that's your passion, do it. You can make it work. This idea of, can we have it all? And, can we have it all at the same time? Yes and no. Certainly for medicine, there is some push-pull as far as doing everything at once. But, I think that if females have a passion for any sort of career within medicine, research or surgery or otherwise, that, absolutely go for it. It's great. I'm very happy.
So you and Alexa have that in common. Just go for it. I love it. What do you think, Judy?
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, you appreciated her candor, and that's really the core of where we learn from these types of women, from our leaders and people that are in places of respect, and they're role models, and they're teaching people, how to act and how to move forward. So I feel like the honesty and the authenticity is just paramount, and it really doesn't matter what industry you're in. I mean, this book, Hype, it shows that, it really brings out people's thoughts from every angle and every perspective.
Thank you. Yeah.
So
it was a fun book to write. I hope it's a fun book to read.
It is. It's very amusing, very entertaining. And let me tell you something. It's just so funny when you turn the next few pages and then you see you're talking about the Amish, and then you're talking about bottled water. And then it's like,
it covers
wow.
everything.
I mean,
everybody's included. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, when you finished it, did you feel like you covered pretty much everything, or is there something on the horizon, that something else you want to talk about, or is there something? You said you have an instinctive journalist personality, so there must be something else that you're tossing around. Is there?
Of course, there's always the next iteration. I think it's a pretty comprehensive book, a pretty comprehensive read, but there's going to be something new, and things are going to change. And in the book, I try to sort of explain that what I say now in 2016 or 2018, it will be different 5 or 10 years from now, and that's fine. That's the nature of life and medicine and what we do. Of course, there's going to be something else. I can't just stop at that. Hype too.
And I like how you finish every chapter with a hype alert.
That's right. Yeah.
And I call them hyper alert.
Hyper, right?
Because it's making me a little more hyper aware, and sometimes in some cases a little more hyper. But I think it's well needed, because people really, I think we all need to dissect the mysteries of what's going on out there, and not just in health. You cover yoga and you cover, I mean, that's health in a way, but from nutrition to exercise to, diseases and viruses. There are so many myths and stories and, beliefs that we probably shouldn't be focusing on. Maybe not just, I'm sure you don't want to tell people don't believe in that, don't believe in this, but there are certain things, I guess perspectives in a way, is what you were saying earlier.
Yeah, it's perspective, and also recognizing nonsense. And, one of the reasons I was really, specific on choosing the title Hype is that it's not that it's false, it's not that it's fake, but it's that it's exaggerated. There's so much that's exaggerated in health, for the good or for bad. This is going to cure X, Y, or Z, or this is going to cause X, Y, or Z, and people get really, rightly wrapped up in these terms and these buzzwords, and most of it is hype. There's usually some truth to it, but it's usually a pretty small grain of truth somewhere in there.
It's amazing. Yes, and I think there's things that people latch onto that there is a small grain of truth. I remember this study about how chicken soup was supposedly good for you and helped your immunity, and we latch onto that, and then it does some sort of credibility with repetition. Now, I'm sure our listeners are interested in learning where they can find Hype. Where can they get it?
So they can get it on, obviously on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any of your local bookstores, your libraries. It's sold everywhere. It's been out now since May 1st, so it's available wherever they fine books are sold.
Amazing. And Dr. Shapiro, where can they learn more about you?
So more information about me and my blog and my work is at my website, which is drninashapiro.com. So it's drninashapiro.com.
Dr. Shapiro, it's been a pleasure to have you on our show to discuss all of these important topics. And thank you so much.
Yeah, it was great fun. My pleasure as well.
I really appreciate your candor and really guiding us to think about things differently and opening our awareness up. And next week, we're going to have Amy Newmark. She's back. Amy is the best-selling author, editor-in-chief, and publisher of the Chicken Soup for the Soul book series. And she has a new book coming out called Empowering Women. And also with her, coming on the show, is Catherine Marshall of Simple Fat Burn. So we're going to have some mind-body fitness for you next week, and we can't wait. Remember, everyone, subscribe to us on YouTube. Don't miss one show. Visit us on whatwomenwantradio.com for more, and see you all next week. We hope you have a wonderful night.
You're listening to What Women Want with Judy Goss and Kristin West, only on LA Talk Radio.